Difficulty sleeping related to the truck is more of a physical difficulty just because it's so uncomfortable. I guess now we have more difficulty sleeping just from the stress.
This is Yumpling, a popular New York City-based food truck that's been serving Taiwanese American fare since 2017. The three co-founders, Howard, Christopher, and Jeffrey, were set to open a restaurant in March 2020. But right before opening day, New York City closed bars and restaurants to slow the spread of COVID-19.
Unfortunately, the food truck has had to stop running just because almost everyone is working from home.
On Friday, March 13th, the food truck staff noticed a big drop in customers, just a day after Mayor Bill de Blasio declared a state of emergency in New York City.
It is time now to declare a state of emergency in New York City.
Things were pretty okay, at least for our food truck. And then Friday, there were very, very few customers. Our staff was just standing around there like, this is really bad. This is getting pretty scary.
On a typical day, before the pandemic, Yumpling was selling up to 1,800 dumplings and serving around 300 customers during the 3-hour lunch shift.
I think we served maybe like fewer than 50 customers during the whole day. So we actually ended up throwing out a lot of food. We actually looked into seeing if we could donate some of the food, but there wasn't really any easy way for us to do so because all of our food on the truck is made to order. We don't have anything prepackaged.
Shopping for inventory and ingredients also became a challenge when people started panic buying.
Acquiring inventory during this time is a pretty scary thing just because there are shortages everywhere. There was a Costco pretty close to our restaurant. So I went there and when I turned the corner of one of the buildings, I saw just a massive line. And so I asked what's going on. I thought maybe they were sold out of stuff. And the people told me, this is the line to get inside Costco. And that line was over 100 people long.
On March 17th, they decided to temporarily stop running the truck. The Yumpling co-owners were excited to open their new restaurant in Queens in mid-March.
Our timing was, pretty terrible on that front. We were actually just pretty ecstatic until the end of February just because our construction for a restaurant was finally done. We were supposed to be open back in November, but for various reasons, we couldn't get the proper permit for cooking gas into the building. So that was like a huge, stress for us all. So, once the gas was in and everything was done, we were just happy. We were like ready to go. And then March came and the news just kept, more and more cases of Corona. Now it's in the States. Now it's in New York. At that point, we're like, maybe, this might become more serious than we thought and we may not be able to open.
After running the numbers, they decided not to offer pickup or delivery. It wouldn't be worth the cost. One
of the big negative things for us is we are a Taiwanese restaurant, and because the coronavirus did kind of originate in China, I do know, a lot of people are kind of wary of, staying away from like Asian food, Asian businesses. So we weren't really sure how people would have, taken to that, like opening up a new Asian restaurant in the midst of this all happening. Since the restaurant hadn't yet opened and has no sales to report, it doesn't qualify for government aid. For the food truck, they're looking into low-interest loans. Right now, their biggest expense is rent for the restaurant space. We had about 6 months of working capital saved up. Unfortunately, about 4 to 5 months of that working capital went towards the huge delay we experienced during our build-out because of the whole, cooking gas situation. So one thing I would have done differently is probably budgeted at least 12 months of working capital before we took on this project, so we wouldn't be in as dire straits as we are now. And I guess just play it safe, especially if you're investing a ton of money into a new business. Make sure you have enough money to sustain you in the event like this, if it were to ever happen again. The three of us, the three partners, were just basically living off of personal savings right now. It was actually funny, the three of us kind of half jokingly, we discussed, maybe we should just look for a part-time job. As long as we have the money to, last until, this month or this year, we don't really have any plans of giving up. I'm hoping everything gets better by the end of this year. Great way to support restaurants is obviously try to order in, maybe, a little bit more than usual. If you do see a restaurant owner or a restaurant employee, just be nice. If you have any advice to give them, give them some advice. But yeah, I guess when this is all over, go out and eat out as much as you can, I guess.